Unified Quest is the Army Chief of Staff's Title X war game. This year, the challenge is to explore building partnership capacity in irregular warfare. Building partnership capacity falls in line with the new Field Manual for Operations, where it speaks of the whole-of-government approach. At Unified Quest '08, representatives from other branches of the federal government and other branches of DoD looked at several scenarios and explored capability gaps that will need to be addressed in the future.
What we see and what we have been experiencing is that unless you have the ability to bring governance, the ability to bring economic well-being, and the ability to do that, to do some of that, not just when something occurs, but rather in helping or in advising long before that ever happens, does require more than the Department of Defense. And the challenge for us has been, in part, how much would fall upon us as a department, whether we would want to or not. It may fall upon us to do that. But how can we take this to the next level and look at, now, as an interagency approach, how could we be the most effective? So I think that what General Casey will take from this, and certainly we're not the only forum that discusses this problem, is to be able to provide some counsel on what we think our capacity might be to be able to do this. I think the steps that we've taken in FM 3.0, our new Army doctrine, which puts stability and reconstruction operations on par with offense and defense, are a testimony to the Army's commitment to being able to operate in the kinds of activities we're seeing. But he will take a recommendation, I suspect, into the chairman and into the secretariat that we certainly support, and we think that we could be a heck of a lot more effective if we had the mechanisms within our government and the capacity within our government and in other agencies to be able to confront these challenges.
A partnership that flourishes at Unified Quest is between the United States and its allies.
I really can only emphasize the U.S. Army's own perspective, and that it is vital that they draw on the understanding and the experiences of other nations, not just the British, of course, in order to improve their own understanding. I mean, central to the way of all militaries' successful operations from now on is growing that understanding of the environment you're in. To do that, you really do need to pull in people's opinions from outside the normal lane. And that's not just other militaries, of course. It's across the agencies within the US and international organizations as well. So I believe that's entirely the right approach. It's certainly one that my Army believes in. I just envious of the US Army's ability and enthusiasm and energy that they've put behind making that a reality. And here's a good example.
Unified Quest allows us to study many problems throughout the world and examine what is needed to use a whole-of-government approach to problem solving.
It causes us to look at the kinds of skill sets that we think we have to be able to bring to bear. You know, that's one reason why, as you've seen the lessons learned that we've had over the last 7 years, you see us bringing civil affairs much more prominently to the forefront. You see us bringing even public affairs, because of the necessity for being able to do information engagement, and again, targeting back to 3.0, the role of information engagement, not just with our media, but even when it comes to local population, to be able to understand this whole information environment that we're going to be in. It's understanding how we have to operate in the 21st century, given not just state actors, but also these non-state actors. And all the nasty little thorny things that they want to bring to bear.
In previous Unified Quest, we have identified certain things that we recommend for possible changes, and one of the things that are coming out this year is, if we're serious about building partnership capacity, there are certain recommendations that we need to make to the Chief of Staff of the Army and to our political leaders, that there's some things that conflict. Some nations may be on a particular list, but we want to build their capacity, but due to policy rules, et cetera, we may not be able to engage with them. So we just highlight those things and offer a recommendation that if we want to build a closer relationship with these nations, that we have to balance those policies and our desire to build capacity. So there's a little tension there, but nothing that cannot be resolved through some discourse between us and our political leaders and the chief.
As the Army looks to the future, 6 important trends will likely fuel conflict: the positive and negative effects on globalization, competition for energy, demographic trends, climate change, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and global or regional terrorist groups that will use failing or failed states as safe havens for preparation and exporting of terrorism. Unified Quest isn't just looking at an Army response to these conflicts that may arise, but across the government and the capability gaps that need to be addressed.
We've invited folks like Dr. Sarah Sewell, who used to be a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Peacekeeping and Humanitarian Assistance. We have Ambassador Pope, a former POLAD here. We have Ambassador Lyon here. We've invited folks from USA. Dayton Maxwell has been here. We've invited very academic folks. Dr. Fesses has been a great supporter of this year's study. But we all do this to try to have this discourse, if you will, and they've all applauded us for, at least at the Army level, introducing this conversation and getting different perspectives on how should the other agencies approach building certain capabilities and capacity to support the nation's work, and that's just an open examination from the Army perspective. And we openly seek other venues to actually participate in theirs to give the Army perspective and to learn what the other agencies are doing. In fact, we're in the preliminary stages with a couple of agencies now to see how we can build upon for UQ09, the next year's study, to see if we can glean some information from each other how to approach these types of problems.
It doesn't start in phase 3 when we go to war and we're out there on the football field and we toss the coin and we scrimmage. It really is starting with this building partnership capacity, because the more we can do in up front, as a whole of government, the better we think we will have postured really our nation to be able to have accomplished its national goals in terms of helping with governance, helping with people who want to make a better way of life for themselves with values along the lines of values that we as a nation value as well. And so that's what this week is really all about, is building that partnership capacity and getting on the front end and carrying it from the front end all the way through to whatever we're asked to do.
Building partnership capacity isn't done overnight and can't be done by the Army alone. Unified Quest helps get the discussion started to build the whole-of-government approach defined in the Army Operations Manual. Reporting from Unified Quest at Carlisle War Barracks, I'm John Harlan, TRADOC News Service.